Good evening. How are you? Well, personally, I've had a good day. I gave a lecture today, which, if you do that sort of thing, you know it can be enjoyable. There was some Q&A, but it was done remotely for all the obvious reasons. And it's more fun to be in a classroom and have people throwing spitballs at you. I don't mean that exactly that, but, throwing questions at you that you have to field. It takes a certain kind of mind to think that's fun, perhaps, but I do think it's fun. Because you're engaging in a discourse in which two people have maybe different points of views or experiences, and then you work that out. The January 6th committee, you know what I think about that. 3 cheers, but nothing, complete silence, crickets, if you guys don't make a referral. And they were supposed to have a hearing tomorrow, Wednesday, and they're not. And the story is that it has to do with the hurricane. Do you think they're, blowing wind up our skirt and pants? I don't know. It's just, it doesn't really work for me. So what would work for me? Well, what if Stewart Rhodes, who headed the Oath Keepers, started a trial today? That is, they started jury selection. And the committee was concerned about the connection between the Oath Keepers and Roger Stone now that they've received this additional information from a news crew or a documentary crew that have Stone very early on talking about what is Trump going to do when he loses. Well, he's going to say, we're looking into that. In other words, he's not going to concede. And Stone knew that. And he knew that because that was the plan. That was the plan. And so I can take the committee at its word that it's because of the storm. But it's kind of suspicious when you have this blockbuster release on Roger Stone talking about what was going on so far in advance of it happening, in advance of the election. So what else does that tell us? That tells us, well, let's take the January 6th committee. If you have evidence like this, and you're not demanding, arrest that son of a bitch now, then you're a coward. You're worthless. You're useless. And to just, say, oh, we really should do that, but we couldn't do it for these 18 reasons, go away. Just go away. I think in one of the earlier days, when we were just getting used to the fact that our leaders don't do a damn thing about these crimes committed against our democracy, I was thinking of the phrases that the nuns would say to us about, there are some people who say, let George do it. Let someone else do what's necessary, what's important. And the lesson from these Dominican nuns from Ireland mostly, fighters every one of them, who cared to help kids that might not have enough money to get a decent education. And I was in the St. Pius's parish, I guess named after the Pope. So taking that thought and coming today, what are they doing? Well, here we gathered this information, let George do it. Well, you certainly can't expect Garland to do it. Garland does nothing. I'm sure there's moss growing on his feet. I don't think the guy has moved. It took him 1.5 years to say, whoa, I better do something. They're going to throw me out of my phony baloney job because I'm a prosecutor, but I'm not doing anything. So let's serve subpoenas. Let's reveal things. Let's have searches. How about someday you indict somebody? Wow, wouldn't that be magnificent? Go, Garland. You yet can become a full prosecutor, a real one who actually works based on the facts. You have Roger Stone saying this thing, and nobody has him in custody? Nobody's calling him before the grand jury? It's outrageous. It's outrageous. This is how we lose a democracy. By people being cowards, by people not doing their jobs. And I'm talking about the Democrats. I'm talking about the AG's office. The other evening I saw a movie, The Report. It's not about this, but some of the same Republican players are in it, managing the government, because they don't want the story to come out about the torture that went on after 9/11. They don't want to talk about how they did everything they could to suppress a report that was being considered by the Intelligence Committee for so long. They did everything they could to suppress it and outlaw it, but it still came out. And it was the summary. The summary was so many pages, And the report was, I don't know, 17,000 words or pages or something. I mean, it was an immense document or series of documents. Is that our government? If we can keep you from knowing the truth, it never happened. Now, does that sound like 1984? I think so. So what are we getting now? We're getting the same thing. The host of people who are used to doing this are all on Trump's side, as far as I can tell. Otherwise, the Democrats might be doing better at this game. And the Republicans are going in and trying to limit the testimony of witnesses before the grand jury. We know nothing about this, but it's a lot like what happened when they were suppressing the barbaric things they were doing to people who, as a matter of fact, had no evidence. And yet they were so convinced if they beat them and tortured them and so forth, there was a kernel of information in each and every one of them that would make the difference. It would save millions of people, but it never happened. They just abused these people. And they abused those people who tried to bring it out, you know. And that's our problem. Our problem is this stuff goes on and nobody crushes it to the earth. And that's what we have to do. The January 6th committee must demand a referral, and for crimes and high crimes and misdemeanors and things to compromise our democracy, like no report has ever existed in America, because no report has ever 100% reported the truth. And I think the one on the torture came the closest to telling us the truth about the unpleasantness, if you will, of how we could abuse other people in such a way. So, you know, there are other issues we could talk about, but this is the most destructive and upsetting to me because it's at the very heart of how we govern. We manipulate. We manipulate information, people. We coerce them. We use, you know, springs and weights and disclose personal information and offer rewards and punishments. And that's how we regulate the story that the public knows. But you see, the trouble here is that these guys, Trump and his associates, are so arrogant they do it out in the open, or we wouldn't have the tape recording of Roger Stone saying what he's saying. And I think we've basically scared the government into having a Stewart Rhodes trial. That is to say that maybe nothing much will happen as a result of it. We have a government that's failed. It's failed us. It's failed the people. And something has to change. This is not the country that we keep talking about, the exceptional country. No. You know, when you hear somebody like Buttigieg a day or so ago, you say, yes, that's what we want to hear. When we see Democrats standing up and saying that Manchin should not be rewarded by being permitted to put pipelines down that compromise the environment as his payoff for doing something he should have done without any consideration. We should be doing something about, other than private parties doing it, about governors who would send migrant workers out into the wind based on lies they tell them to get them to do it, to appear to have consent when they were lied to get that consent. Chapter after chapter of misconduct and outrageous behavior, lies, schemes. So, yeah, I do wonder if we had to cancel the hearing. I do wonder if a whole bunch of the Republican crew said, oh, you can't have that hearing tomorrow, not while the Rhodes case is on. That would be terrible. Well, you know, maybe everybody should have thought about this when they were trying to run our country into the ground and destroy it. If we don't get tough, you know, I think of Robert Kennedy when I say that. When the going gets tough, the tough get going. Where in America is that person in our leadership? Huh? Talk, act, talk, act. Okay, so that's enough of me. I spent too much time lecturing and then preparing for some hearings today. So my Irish is up, but it should be. And everybody's should be, whether it's Irish, Italian, Jewish, whatever. This is not something we should put up with. And we have to make it clear that we're not going to put up with it. So, I am in my cathedral of trees where things are pure and honest and life-giving, and that's what we should wish for America, that we restore these values in a country that's overladen with a cancer caused by these people who do terrible things, countered by those who do nothing and are complicit by their silence. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.